Hi, Tosca. You're back with us for another interview.
Indeed.
For those that missed the last interview, it's on our other YouTube page, Serenity Tribe. We talked a little bit about your background in nutrition and things like that. Touched a little bit on the yoga and bits, but today on this channel, we're going to delve in a little bit more into the yoga, the Qigong, the spirituality, all of that good stuff. So we get a chance to just lay it all bare and have a bit of fun with that.
Delighted, yeah.
So I suppose we'll start with, I suppose the yoga is kind of the big one, just in sense of its name, really. Your yoga journey, and how do you use the yoga in your everyday life when you teach?
Yeah, so I guess the journey, if you want to know, you can stop me if it's not interesting, but I was in Reno, Nevada, and I took a philosophy course, believe it or not, and they touched on some yoga, and I was like, that's interesting. And so I did the teacher training, the 200-hour teacher training, but it wasn't Yoga Alliance certified. So that was what, in 2012, I think, or yeah. And then so I did another one in Cork, actually, a 200-hour, and then I did my 300-hour in India, in Goa. And since then, just absolutely just like yin yoga and learning all sorts. So yes, that's been a pretty long journey. I knew I wanted to share it, like from the moment, I first learned about it as like a philosophy and a method. I definitely figured I loved it and I wanted to share it with people. So yes, that was the start of I guess teaching movement and philosophy and these kinds of things. Definitely.
Yeah, and obviously with yoga, there's different limbs to yoga, and there's different. In the West, predominantly, we just know the asanas. That's the main thing.
Exactly. So I don't know if you want us to go into it, but I guess there are 8 limbs. Do you want to go into it?
Yeah, we'll go into them. Yeah,
Yeah. So I guess the the first limb is the yamas, which are kind of the way to sort of harmonize socially. Things like not harming and not coveting, these kinds of things. And then the niyamas are about inner harmony. So things like being truthful and being content and having a devotion and all this. So those are the first 2 limbs, the yamas and the niyamas. Then the asanas are the third limb. So that's the body movements, the postures. And then the fourth is pranayama, the breath work. The fifth is when you kind of try to go a little deeper into yourself. Pratyahara, so it's like sensory inhibition to focus on the inner world. And then you move into like concentration, being one-pointed concentration, then meditation, and then samadhi, the beautiful experience of like the deeper truth in the world. So those are the 8 limbs of yoga, and like you say, the asanas are actually just the third limb in a path to enlightenment.
Yeah, and it's interesting that breath work and pranayama is fourth, because I know in some cases in India, in a lot of they'll teach the breath work first, like breath. Obviously, you breathe before you move, so that kind of makes sense. But when you see it on the 8 limbs, it's down a good bit compared to where you think it would be, which is interesting. So I suppose my point with all this is like you'll see it in our own classes as well. Everything is dominated by the asanas, and yoga to most people would be just a form of movement and standing on your head and turning yourself inside out and that kind of thing. But
Right.
as now we know that there's 8 limbs, there's a complete whole network, and it's a deeper meaning, the whole of the yoga. How do you find that when you teach your yoga? How do you bring in those elements into it?
Yeah, so it is really tough because you kind of, I mean, as a teacher, you are trying to meet people where they're at. And of course, working in America, there are these gorgeous, yoga studios and people that have been doing yoga for a really long time. So you assume they know a little bit more, so you can kind of focus, you can go deep even in your movement classes. But I have noticed in the different cultures, and then teaching in Ireland as well, where they may not be as far along in terms of knowing all about the method of yoga. So you kind of need to meet people where they're at. And if you're not really and because another thing about yoga is that people perceive it as being a religious kind of a thing, especially in a place like Ireland,
Mm,
which would be quite Catholic, and all the villages all have a church in the middle of the villages, so it's only natural that there'd be some question there of like, wait a minute, what are we exactly doing here, and
yes.
you have to really, I feel as though you'd want to, as a teacher, meet people where they're at and not kind of force anything into it, and maybe read the room or read your audience and realize when they're maybe a little bit open, to hearing things. And the bottom line is that yoga is not a religion. It's obviously entangled with Hinduism and the mythology of Hinduism, but it's a method toward a deeper archetypal human sort of drive to learn the deep truths about why we're here, and feel, I guess, the deep truths merge with the source or the oneness, or
Yeah.
yeah, if we're going real deep real fast.
Absolutely, yeah, and it does have that. I mean, I've
Hmm.
been told by certain people that yoga's evil and stuff because
Of
of the
course. Hmm. You
because
do.
we're bringing in evil spirits into it and the incarnations, and it's just educating people really. It's just
Hmm.
people's own their own doctrines that won't let them see anything else.
Exactly.
Unfortunately,
I know.
which is very strange.
It is.
Um, but I remember having a conversation with an old priest that, and I used to work in one of the spas, who would come in for some bioenergy,
Mm,
and he loved it.
mm,
But I remember having a conversation with him, and he said it's similar to what we do. He said, so
mm,
when we go into and we all pray together, he
mm,
says it's just basically a mantra. That's what the
mm,
prayers were, and he said you could feel the energy and the
mm,
vibration in the room lift
mm,
through that. And this was an 80-year-old priest who was really open minded and could see the
mm,
interconnectedness for everything.
mhm,
And he loved his treatment, but his conversations were amazing.
mm.
And his prayer, obviously, the rosary beads would be similar to the prayer beads in Buddhism, and
Of
they all have
course.
the same sort of idea. But that
Mhm,
really was a point where it really sort of opened my eyes a little bit more to
mm,
someone who got it,
mm,
and how it connected the two different things together.
mhm.
And I suppose my journey would be kind of opened up my journey a little bit more as to looking at all the things that I've done in a little bit of a different way and seeing the interconnectedness even more.
Absolutely.
Do you find that as well when you teach with all your experience?
Absolutely, exactly, because just the way that my journey has gone, being exposed to so many different genres, I guess, and different disciplines, like the qigong as well, and then also when I was exposed to James Hillman and, well, Carl Jung, I guess, originally, this idea of archetypal realms, where it's this these drives that are collectively across all eras, that are there, that are kind of nearly propelling humans forward, or these um, kind of collective participation signatures that all humans are tapped into in some way. And religion
Mm,
and these types of deeper practices are archetypal in nature, meaning they transcend culture, they certainly transcend doctrine. They're living, and they're a personal kind of a participation in these archetypal collective drives that we have. And so I think the more I learned about archetypal psychology and the archetypes, the more I realized that it's actually something deeper that all of these lineages are tapping into. That it is actually the deeper thing. Like Matsuo Bashu, I think, is a gentleman who said, "Seek not the path of the ancients, seek that which the ancients sought." And that's kind of like, for me, a beautiful thing of, saying these things are important to all humans,
mm.
but we don't want to copy you. We want to find that we want to seek ourselves, in our way as well. So I love lineages because they are, by ancient humans who were much more connected to their essential nature and to the essential nature of nature itself. So I love lineages, but I also think there's a very, very key component for a personal lived experience of the lineage, you know?
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from.
Mm.
I think it sort of touches on, we all sort of, if we sit around and pray and we raise the vibration and we change the
Mhm.
world and we all evolve together. believe that we evolve individually,
Mhm.
on an individual basis, depending on where you are. I don't think we can all sit in a room together because we're all at different levels.
Mm.
Um, and I don't think that works. It
Mm.
logically it doesn't work if someone's up here and someone's down here who doesn't understand. So
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of that where we have this perceived things where we can change, but ultimately we're changing ourselves. I
Mm.
think that's the key to it.
Exactly. Exactly, and I always think of it as participation. It's your style of participation, and I think it's really important to honor that, you know, especially in this age where we're kind of science is telling us exactly what we have to do. If there's no study, then you can't be doing that, and then the influencer culture too, where they're kind of telling us what we need to
Mm,
do. It feels like we can't eat anything unless we ask a nutritionist. We can't, be a certain way until we've asked an expert or an influencer. So I think in this day and age, it's particularly important for us to connect to our own, I guess, power, if you want to call it that, or our own sovereignty or our own intuition about these things. And exactly as you just said, because we all have our own unique participation signature
mm.
that is moving along the evolution current or whatever.
Yeah, because like as you
Hmm.
say, even with influencers, you're right. You do something. So I'm going to do this. This feels really good, and then someone else says you shouldn't be doing that, and you're
Hmm.
going, oh, what? But I thought, and then we get sort of stuck, and we don't know what we're doing because we've heard four different things to do from different people, and that goes anything from food to yoga to martial arts, whatever it is. It's we're all being told. Whereas basically, what we're trying to say is take it all on board and
Hmm.
just do what you can or do what you feel, what
Mm.
feels right for you at that
Ex-
particular moment.
exactly. And the only way we really know what's truly well for us is when we sit with ourselves and when we have this journey on our with our own as well. I know I got caught up in the whole certification thing where it's like I need more input, more input. But, you know, knowledge isn't everything. It's the lived experience of it. And I think I certainly was through most of my 20s and then even slightly into my 30s, I would say. I was just totally obsessed with getting more knowledge and more
Mm,
certifications. And then I realized that all once I just set aside time each day to be with myself and to go a little deeper within my own self, I saw that's where the actual magic is. And just going back to what you said there earlier, it's almost even worse than that because these days everyone wants to stand out, like, and so they're kind of nearly thinking specifically, how do I stand out? So they
yes.
may not even truly feel that this is the right way, but they're like, ooh, this is novel, this is interesting,
Yeah.
which is so opposite to the way it was back in ancient times. They would ascribe their own writings to like a god or something, a lineage, because they wanted to show that they were part of this lineage. Whereas nowadays we're the exact opposite. We want to plant our name on something and devise this new technology, this new
Yeah.
innovative way of doing a certain type of yoga, or it seems like we're kind of desperate to innovate. So it's nearly like we're not following our heart specifically. We are trying to be different or trying to
Yes.
come up with something that'll go viral or
Yeah. And I think a lot
something.
of that has come from, trying to get classes in. Like you see all these different exercise classes, and
Mm,
it's just the same stuff with a different name because you can only move the body so many ways.
that's it.
Um,
And then the sad part is that it kind of fragments things that work really well, things that are amazing. They Someone needed to do it some other way and call it something else. And so it just feels, at least my mind, I don't know if it happens for you, but it's so fragmented. We're kind of I just feel lost sometimes because
yeah.
there's
I
just so
think
much.
once money came into it and it became a business for a lot of people, I
Mm,
think that's when yoga has changed. Now, there's nothing wrong with people making money from it, obviously, but when you're
mhm,
changing it to put your own, come to my class because we do this, or we're
mhm,
different to everybody else. I'm like, you're just yoga. You're
mhm.
just a different way of yoga.
Mhm.
And I think that has a lot to do with.
It's true.
You see it in the martial arts as well. Like when you're young, you want to get more grades because the grade's going to make you a better martial artist. It doesn't. You
Mm.
find that the stuff that you learned at the beginning, the basics, and your understanding of it, and you're, like you say, going internally and
Mm,
figuring out. That's what it's all about. The other stuff is nice to know, but
mhm.
not necessarily need to know in a lot of cases.
Exactly. No, I agree.
So it's an interesting journey, and it's like it's not just yoga, but everything across the board seems to be going in the same direction in that regards,
It does.
which is interesting. So I know we've talked a lot, and we're very much on the same wavelength about interconnectedness, and
Mm,
everything's the same. So just from your yoga, like I know you're into your qigong and like
mhm.
where did that journey start from your qigong?
Yeah, so I was really lucky to have found an amazing yin yoga teacher who was an acupuncturist. And so he approached yin yoga as like connecting to the acupressure points in each of the poses.
Wow,
And so when I did his 300-hour teacher yin yoga training, there was a big TCM, traditional Chinese medicine component to it. So that's when I first, and
brilliant.
by the way, he just blew my mind entirely in terms of how I taught yoga, um, and to being a more of an intuitive teacher. I really didn't like this idea that I was uh, telling people what to do. I wanted to rather do the whole point to the moon kind of thing, like uh, bring people into a bodily experience rather than tell them make this shape now, and I'll show you exactly how to make this shape.
Yes,
So he blew my mind that way. And then the Chinese medicine, getting into that was the start of the Qigong journey, because I was fascinated. And it just so happened too that Daoism is something that always uh, was really interesting to me because, I mean, I don't know how far you want to go into it, but I never connected to like monotheism, like religions, uh, and even just religions that seem to pull us out of this world. Like
mm,
even Buddhism, reincarnation, we're thinking about the next life, or, and certainly in Christianity, we're thinking about, well, it's the afterlife. I love what I loved about Taoism was it's like life affirming. It was like, no,
this is life.
this
Yeah.
is it. Be in the flow of this life. And then even like Friedrich Nietzsche's eternal return, like he says, not only say yes to life, but say yes to it as if it were going to be exactly this way forevermore. We were just going to repeat this exact cycle of our own lives. And I
Mm,
just thought that's such a beautiful way to think of life is imagine this moment you will live forever. It changes the way you are in each moment.
yeah.
So sorry, I got off on a tangent there, but so Taoism really spoke to me from the beginning. It's the only, because I've always been again, I don't know what words to use, but a spiritual person, as in, or I should say a soulful person. That's
Mm,
really what it is. I've always felt deep connections, and that there was connected to an invisible world, or this kind of stuff. So spiritual, I guess, but no, none of the spiritual modalities really struck a chord in me until I came across Taoism. So I think that's where it all started, was
from there.
that the acupressure points, and from Taoism as
Yeah, the
well.
Chinese really developed it. Like the Tao is really the closest thing to being in the moment and living the now. It is what it is basically. It's
Exactly, exactly, and I thought so 100%, because with other types of meditation, it's like be in the moment, but yet where there's all thinking about the past, karma and all these things, and then well, this is all an illusion. Do you know what I mean? It just never. It was only Taoism really that got me like in fully in the moment. And again,
yeah,
this is just my own journey. Everyone has their own journey, and that's what I think that's what we're talking about, the beauty
yes,
the beauty of that.
and the interconnectedness of it
Well,
all,
just the
and yeah,
beauty of having your own experience as well, and
yeah.
not offending anyone by having it.
No,
Mhm.
that's the scary one.
Yeah.
That's the thing we have to deal with,
Mhm.
and then that's been brought up. Like I'd be a massive Star Wars fan, so that's based on the samurai culture, and the Force is the universe. Everything is connected, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of spirituality within
Mhm.
that is based on.
Oh, it's beautiful
Which
analogies.
is really really good, and we don't see that because we see the laser swords and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when you go into the deeper sides of it, the Tao is very much like the Force,
It
where we
is.
kind of we live. And
Mhm.
I always found personally that the Chinese systems really. I know we have pranayama and yoga and energy.
Mhm.
It was never really delved into. Whereas the Chinese systems really worked on the self-cultivating and feeling the energy and the healing side of it more
Mhm.
so.
I think so too. And even especially the visualization, because visualization is just such an important component of working with qi.
Mm,
And I loved that because I love imagination. And I think these are all cognitive modes. Like these days, it seems like they're just peop people love the rational mind and science and everything. And it just thinks like, oh, imagination and intuition, that's decorative. Those are decorative human cognitive modes. Whereas I think there's some really profound truths in that type of imaginative imagination and visualizing and stuff. And so I just really connect with that as well, and visualizing the healing and visualizing the breath and
absolutely,
chi
yeah.
moving.
And scientifically, it's proven that when you visualize something, athletes do it all the time. When you visualize the movements that you're doing in throughout form, your nervous system is bringing to life all the muscles and ligaments and tendons that you would use for that particular exercise, and it's used for rehabilitation from. So it's the connection between science has proven that
Hmm.
visualization is hugely powerful.
Exactly, and there's a really good book on qigong by I think his name is Kenneth Cohen, and he brings up all of that scientific knowledge and and really good randomized control trials and everything, like really solid science that shows the power of visualization,
Yeah,
even without the actual body moving. It's amazing.
it is powerful, and when
Mm.
you put it all together,
Hmm.
um, the reason why it doesn't work for a lot of people, and for most people, is because we just don't do it on a regular basis. That's
Exactly.
really it in a nutshell.
Hmm.
You only do something once a week, you're only going to get a small percentage of growth.
Hmm.
The more we do it, obviously, the better we get.
Exactly, and I found that the more I would do it, especially qigong, the more like synchronicities would happen. It's almost like my soul opened up a little bit more, and it felt like things just became more meaningful. So yeah, I think that's what the key was for me to keep going with it, because it does involve discipline, and
Mm,
there is no such thing as discipline unless it's kind of difficult to a certain, overcoming resistance is self discipline. So it does take a bit of that, but then eventually with self discipline, you become nearly. I look forward to it. Like I can't wait to do it. It's not a chore. It's not something I feel like I have to do. It's something. It's like a friendship that you cultivate with yourself, and you're
yeah,
excited to hang out with this friend. So yes, and that's I got that from qigong. It was the only modality that I ever really felt that deepest connection with. Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes it's easier too, 'cause you don't have to roll out mats. You don't have to do stuff.
Yeah, true.
There's a little less effort
Yeah,
sometimes where you can just be. I suppose you can be a little bit more spontaneous
true.
with that type of thing.
And
Um,
that's very Daoist as well. Very
yeah,
exactly.
and I know there'll probably be people listening to this podcast going, "We're Slate and yoga were absolutely the opposite
Mm.
of." I remember being taught by in Japan, and they'd say you don't really understand how good your art is unless you do other arts. And when you
Mm.
when you try other stuff, you go, oh, that's
Mm.
we do that, and you start to see that we're doing the same thing but slightly different.
Yes.
I found that when I was doing yoga, when I did it from like a Tai Chi perspective and used
Mm.
the energy and Chi, it changed your yoga practice
Mm.
completely. It
Mhm.
brought it to life
Mhm.
in a way that I didn't think was possible.
Mm.
And so I think the two of them are completely, so this is really what our talk is, and what we're
Mhm.
trying to do here is show the interconnectedness that if you do qigong or you do tai chi
Mm.
and you do yoga, it's all the same, just same thing done slightly differently.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that? Would you Is that the way you would teach and bring in those?
Absolutely. I definitely love to, work with a bit of qigong to get that visualization and to get that deeper connection. I think just because I think it's just an I don't know, better, I don't know if that's the right word, but a better entry point to working with that.
Mm,
And that could just be because I wasn't in Indian culture and didn't grow up with it, but just the way that my journey happened, it just felt like qigong was more accessible in connecting to that component of
yeah,
energy and visualizing, and then bringing it into the yoga practice absolutely it gets me more connected to each pose, and yeah, on a deeper level in each pose. So no, I would say that absolutely. And sure, with this globalization, this day and age, it's not that crazy to to think that way. I am a complete mongrel. I'm a mutt. I have all sorts of genetics running through, born in South Africa, um, having European descent and everything. So I have no true culture that I can draw upon.
Mm.
So I think it's quite natural, as well, to connect to different cultures. And then again, like we were talking about, catch that more archetypal message
Yes.
that's underlies all of the modalities, and you can kind of see that thread weaving through all of them.
Yeah, I think you, and that's why you're kind of blessed in a way, because people who, for example, go back to the religion. If you're indoctrinated into a Catholic religion or whatever, you don't see anything. But I wasn't when I grew up. My mum,
Mm,
dad wasn't into any of that. So you
mm,
you begin to see all of them for what they
mm.
are, and the goodness
Yes.
and the badness. So you can go and you could go into a mosque if you wanted. You could go to,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't have that. Oh, I can't do that
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not allowed, or whatever. It's different to what we've done. So
Mm-hmm.
having being a mutt, I think, is brilliant because you don't have anyone, you're not following anyone.
Mm.
Um,
And I think so long as you know the culture, and you learn where it came from or what place that it came from, I think once you know that, you can connect to that thread in your own way, like we talked about in the first part of this. So yeah, no, I definitely think the different modalities can enhance each other
completely.
beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's becoming more apparent that people are like, I would do qigong warm ups before.
Mhm.
Like, I
Exactly.
suppose when we were trained, I mean, a yoga warm up for all of us was a sun salutation,
Exactly. Yeah.
which is, if you've never done sun salutations before, you're a beginner.
Oh, Steph, when I did my first yoga class, I was expecting everyone to just, no, that's not the way it works. Vinyasa is very technical. It's very difficult, and m- mobility challenging as well. So
Yeah,
no, you're dead right. Yeah.
and I think in some ways too, that's what actually people give up yoga,
Exactly.
because they think, "Oh, I can never do." I hear it so many times. I'll never be able to do that because we're
Hmm.
starting them off. We're not doing baby steps. We're just
Exactly.
starting them off with stuff that's not for beginners, really,
Hmm.
in a nutshell.
And the thing is that in Indian culture, you are doing yoga from the moment, if you are as a very young child, it is a huge, huge, huge part of your life.
Mm,
So it is not that inconceivable at all to think, okay, how do I, since I know this is a beautiful, beautiful thing, how do I introduce it to my culture, in a way that does respect the essence, but in a way that is accessible? And because I think, isn't that the beautiful thing? And why would you want to lock people out just because you're going from zero to,
yeah,
100, rather than taking them by the hand,
and that doesn't
at
happen
their own
in other
pace?
disciplines.
Mm,
Whatever other discipline, you have to start from the very beginning and learn
mm,
like in boxing, they just don't put you in a ring with
right.
gloves.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to move your feet and how to do footwork. Like, so,
Hmm.
sometimes I would look at that in that regard and go, "Oh, that's kind of a baptism of fire in some ways."
Hmm. Big
You're
time.
just kind of thrown in and expected to.
Exactly, and I saw that for a huge thing, talking about breath work. Breath work is extremely powerful, and if you just go into a yoga class and go with these intense, breath work, it can elicit some really emotional. I mean, it does regulate the nervous system. So a lot of us in our culture are just so not high strung, but or burnt out, or you know what I'm trying to say. Like we're very frantic, or we're in very fast paced life. To go in with these hardcore, breathing exercises is scary. So we almost need to. Water it down, I guess, a little bit, if that's the right
Yeah,
way to say it, just to introduce it. And so, yeah, no, I agree.
yeah, it's a baby step, and you see it in things like meditation that are very simple, and you just sit down and meditate for 30 minutes.
Hmm.
That's the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life.
Exactly.
Especially if you're sitting on a floor, or you're sitting there like you're, like the Shaolin monks would have trained. They did all those exercises to
Hmm.
make their body strong so that they could actually sit for
Hmm.
hours and meditate. Like,
Right.
you couldn't do it just with our bodies,
Hmm.
just sitting on a chair, because your body, there's nothing there.
Hmm.
So even something as simple as we think is just breathing and meditate,
Hmm.
is there's a lot to it.
Exactly.
So again, we fail from the beginning because we're throwing them in at a deep end that to do stuff that they're not capable of doing,
Mhm.
which I think is just wrong, really. I think, and that's just to be able to, like you said earlier, to be able to read the room,
Mm.
see what's there, and actually be able to break stuff down, which I think is very important for any teacher.
Big time. Oh my gosh, that was the one thing, and now I don't know if it's all changed since, because I would have done mine about a decade ago, but was not ready to adapt when I stepped out of my immersion in yoga training. I was definitely not capable to adapt. It was only through working with people that I learned, and I learned from them.
Mm,
They taught me how to adapt the yoga moves for different types of issues. And so no, yeah, I wish we could learn how, I guess, yeah, maybe learn how to adapt, because there's so many times I've heard people say, "Oh no, I don't like yoga. I tried to go to yoga class and she said I should do this move and I couldn't do it." So, and imagine that. Imagine the awful feeling of someone leaving your class and thinking worse of themselves
yeah,
afterward. You know
it's
what I
good.
mean? That's my worst nightmare. So,
Yeah,
like, it's very important to be able to, and that's what's tough about, mixed levels classes and all that, because it's tough as a teacher.
yeah.
But yeah.
It's just a case of adapting and taking baby steps. And
Mhm.
obviously, when you do learn something new, you're full of that knowledge and you want to teach it.
Yes, that's the thing. Yeah,
So that's,
exactly.
I think that's just a learning process
Mhm.
as we go along. So, which brings us to kind of why we're doing this
Mm,
these talks, because I know we're going to do. We want to get into a series of videos and explanations of
mm,
how we can actually adapt stuff,
mm,
and talk about the yoga, the qigong, and I know we want to talk about sort of the elemental stuff and the moon
mm,
cycles for women,
mm,
stuff that has been bounding around, but I would like to go a little bit more into that and
mhm.
how they work and how you can bring it into your asana, or how you can bring all of this into your, we'll say, practice. Not
Exactly.
necessarily yoga practice, but whatever your practice is, by
Mhm.
bringing in all these different elements.
Mm,
We'd love, this is what we're trying to do, is kind of give a taste of your perspective and
mm.
different perspectives into maybe yoga and tai chi and qigong, and how we can bring them together and to show them.
Exactly, as methods of, or a gateway to going deeper into ourselves, which I think is actually all of their purpose as well. Each of these disciplines are there for you to go deeper into yourself and to feel into a certain kind of knowledge, or not even knowledge, but a certain kind of knowing. And that's why I think using them all is lovely, and connecting on that cosmic level with the moon and all that kind of stuff as well is an added layer to going deeper within. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm very
which is
excited for
which
that.
is nice. Yeah, and I'm looking
Mm.
forward to hearing that side of things.
Mm,
Stuff that you don't really hear every
maybe
day.
not, yeah.
And also when you're, as you get older, you become a little bit more open, and you're
Of course.
when you're younger, you don't really want to hear about
Mm.
moons and energies and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
then as you get older, you realize, well, I've always felt that energy,
Mhm.
It's so we're kind of yeah, just trying to look at things in a different way, because there's probably people who are thinking that way, or
Mhm.
maybe do different disciplines and wondering, am I allowed to mix them, or can I do it? Is
Mm.
there a thing? What's your thought on that? Of that psyche of being able to mix.
Yeah, it's just something I guess I've never really thought of, because I've always just thought it was okay. I really did. So I think that's beautiful. And all of these, like, yoga will have the sun and the moon are extremely important parts of yoga. And then of course in qigong as well, the moon is a very huge part of how the Chinese, uh in fact, there was just the Chinese New Year there at the new moon, the second new moon after the winter solstice. So these are, again, archetypal. They go across eras, across cultures. So I definitely think that that's okay to do. And in fact, I think that is exactly how we go deeper into these practices. So I hope people are interested. I'm super interested in
Yeah, I'm
it.
super excited to see where it goes,
Mhm.
and to just have a bit of fun and explore stuff, whatever
Stuff.
it is, saunas, whatever, just to get out there and have a bit of fun, and
Mhm.
and not take it too serious, and just
Exactly.
ultimately make ourselves better
Mm,
humans, and
mm,
maybe helpfully help others become maybe a bit better. Who knows?
mhm.
But if we can take our own take care of our own selves would be brilliant. So this is a first step in a new direction, I suppose, for some people. Not for us, but for certain people, this might be
Mhm.
something brand new. So
Mm.
hopefully, stay tuned for the little videos and the insights into what we're going to do, and hopefully people will enjoy,
Hopefully, yes.
and as much as we will. We'll have a bit
Exactly.
of fun.
Mhm.
So Tosca, thanks so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the videos.
Great. Thanks, Daryl.
Thanks for coming. We talked about yoga and its relationship to maybe energy, and relationship to maybe the moon cycles and things like that. So I just think today I'd love to take it back to the asanas and maybe look at something that everybody would know, like the Warrior 2, for example, which is simple but very complex in its togetherness, and just to see your perspective of how you would use this asana through maybe, say, moon cycles or energy, and we'd love to see that perspective of everything within it.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. We can see how we get along, because connecting to the moon itself, because it is sort of symbolic from ancient days of your intuition and that the embodied experience of the world. So actually the moon is a wonderful way for us to drop deeper into ourselves. So I'll do that. What I do love to do with Qigong is to just kind of rub my hands together. I love to create that energy and that kind of friction and heat. So that might be nice. This middle point of our palms is called our Lao Gong point in Qigong. So we're really going for it today in terms of mixing up our styles. And we might even do a little kind of microcosmic orbit. We might just kind of inhale and reach arms out, up and overhead, and then gently allow that energy to descend. I think this is just a lovely way to connect as we move into the warrior. And then to close that off, we'll just dip and kind of gather and allow that energy to descend, which even just that little movement is a beautiful way to connect. Lovely. So the actual Warrior 2, I think you have lots on your channel in terms of the actual, yeah. So this is the Warrior 2 stance. Hips are open and arms are parallel to the earth with your special points now facing downward. So you can kind of connect to that even. And then connecting to the soles of your feet and just really feeling out the move. Called the Warrior, Vira Bhadrasana. Vira is hero and Bhadrasa is friend. So nice to connect to those words as well. So if we're working with the moon cycle, we know that the moon, orbits around the earth every 29 and a half days. And we have our new moon, which I like to just gently bring hands together at the heart. The new moon is when the sun and the moon are kind of in the same area of the sky together. So that's why we can't see the moon. That's why it's a new moon. And that kind of, you could say, starts the cycle. It's the seed of the cycle. In fact, the Chinese New Year starts in the second new year after the winter solstice. So you can kind of think of these planting the seeds for new beginnings. That could be something that you connect to. But at that new moon, it's starting, the moon will continue to move, and as it moves away from the sun, it becomes fuller and fuller and fuller and fuller with light. So that crescent moon is the first, maybe 2 days after the new moon. It'll have this gorgeous crescent, shining, almost like a backward C shape, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's the full moon. And then think of that new moon energy. I like to bring it all into the heart. That symbolism of kind of like new beginnings. But then also it's going to be waxing, so it's going to be getting bigger as the days go by, and in 2 weeks it'll be a full moon. So it's this tension between a beginning but also becoming. So I like to just kind of press hands away, again connecting to that Lao Gong point as well. And then just kind of bringing it back in. So this kind of would be something maybe that I would do to connect to that part of the lunar cycle. That tension between, being, the gestation period, and then becoming. So that's kind of what I would do there. So like I say, the the moment of the sun set, then at a new moon, every day after that, the moon, because it moves faster than the sun, it's going to move left in the sky. And then 2 weeks later, as the sun sets, the full moon is going to rise. So you can kind of sit on a rock and watch the sunset and watch the full moon rise, which is really lovely. And of course, the full moon then is going to be that height of energy, that height of activity, and where all the creatures of the night now have light. So you can connect to that energy however you'd like to as well. And since that's kind of more of a dynamic energy, the way I would kind of move into the warrior to connect to that energy would be maybe more dynamic. And I might even bring in a Qigong move from the 12 rivers called Tiger Stretches Its Waist. So what I would do, maybe you can try it out, is I would flip palms and then gather overhead, kind of like thinking about, you know, all that energy. And then bring that down to the heart. Maybe even straighten front leg, lift the ball of the front foot and dip into the back knee, which is something you see a little bit more in Tai Chi and Qigong than you would in yoga, say. And then I'd maybe kind of like move forward and clasp, which this is the tiger stretches his waist, coming out and over. And then kind of release. Again, just in case you're wanting to play around with it. So we start at our Virabhadrasana B, the Warrior 2. Flipping palms and reaching tall. And then straightening front leg as you bring it down, dipping into the opposite knee. And then that sort of dynamic activity movement. Tiger stretches his waist, which is hitting the gallbladder channel along the side of the body. And that's kind of where I would go with that. So a lot more dynamic, but that's what the full moon is. So that would be kind of a waxing moon. So the moon has gone from not being seen to getting bigger, 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 bigger. Full moon comes. Now the moon has to wane and get smaller, 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 smaller until it completes the cycle at the next new moon. So what I might do during that is probably really more still, because it's the end of a cycle and planting the seed for the next cycle. So I'd probably just do really simple, go from the warrior, feel that, I suppose, more masculine energy. And then I'd just bring it in and kind of cover the heart and connect there. And I'd probably leave it there, really, moving back into the warrior, because like I say, it's very much descending energy. It's that surrender or trust energy, and again, planting that seed for the next cycle. So I don't know if that's interesting, but I know I'm going really fast, but through these, if you do it on your own, you can really connect. And like I say, when you work with that energy, it kind of grounds you and you can kind of connect a little bit more.
It is very, very Tai Chi.
Yeah, I think so.
And would you do those as part of a vinyasa, or would you do specifically work on that particular asana?
Yeah, so I do very much beginner classes, so vinyasa would not be part of my regular teaching. So we do it more Qigong style, where it's kind of specific forms and then you move on to another form. So that's about as flowy as I would get. I might throw it into, I guess I can show you exactly what I do if you like. So for me, I like to start at the top of the mat and just do some like balancing exercises. People really like to do it and they say that their balance has improved. And then I might go into the Warrior 1. So I would just kind of point, if I'm in the middle of a giant clock, I'd point toes to the 12 o'clock and then open up to the 3 o'clock to the 5 o'clock and step it back. And this would be your more Warrior 1, where hips are more or less facing forward. And then grow your pose there. Virabhadrasana A. And then to open up, I would kind of pull back one hand and let the hip follow it open. and then adjust your back foot so that your hips have moved open. So I guess I can show you from the other side. So just moving around, stepping back into that warrior one. And then opening up, pulling your hip back and adjust your feet as you move into that warrior two. Another way that I guess that I do it is from the warrior one, bringing hands down and then pulling the one hand back. And as you pull back, you open the hip and adjust the back foot. And then from there, of course, you have all sorts of different yoga moves then that you can get into to do your flow, and then just end up back at the front of the mat. So it's not quite a vinyasa, but...
It's nice because the transition is quite a difficult one sometimes to go from A to B.
Yeah, and then if you want to reset the spine, which is specifically what the upward dog, downward dog is about, you can literally do it standing up. If you just do something like this, just to reset the spine, really, and then carry on. You know, if people, because a lot of, I don't know if you find it, but a lot of people can't go from the ground to standing up very easily.
No,
so.
no, it's a tough one. And then just in regards to your, when you're doing your warrior two and you're bringing in the moon cycles in, are you bringing energy up from the groundedness from the feet all the way up and up through the body?
Exactly. And again, the moon is very much symbolism for embodiment and connected to earth, you know, a motherly kind of nurturing energy, 100%, yeah. So you're connecting to the ball of the moon up to the sky, but then also balancing that with connecting deeply to the earth as well. So, yeah.
So you're taking almost a mountain pose stance. You're just that solid to bring it, to hold it, to take it all the way up.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, where it's both pulling up and rising up, but that mountain is a perfect symbolism. The groundedness and like heaviness almost. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and do you find then if you were to do that on a full moon, the energy would be completely different to if you were to do it on a
It is for
half
me.
moon?
It is for me, anyways. Definitely a different. So that's why I say once you have the move, then you can play around with, okay, well, what is the quality at different times, whether it's following the moon or whatever else that you want to, you know, connect to. So once you know the move, you can then connect to the quality.
Yes, so I can see why the warm-ups are important to get the energy flowing before you move into the actual
and to
asana.
create the space, to create the container as well, and the intention and visualization as well. Really important, imagining that not only the chi inside your body that's working for harmony inside your body, but also the cosmic chi, you know, like really being in the flow of the interconnectedness of the world.
Yeah, and it's funny too, as we talked, and I asked them about religion and how religion feels, but the Lao Gong point is basically, in religious terms, is where Jesus had the nails were put in through the hands.
I suppose so,
So
yeah.
in the priests would always lay their hands on people's heads, you know, and you get that warmth and that energy. So Qigong and energy has always been part of religion. Some people just don't really understand how.
Right.
Or why it interconnects.
Why would that point be so important across different, you know, energetic, spiritual?
And this is kind of what we're trying to do today, is show people that it's all interconnected, that you've seen it all before, just in a different way, or maybe explained in a different form.
Exactly.
So that was brilliant. That was, thank you for sharing that, Tosca.
For sure.
And we look forward to doing some more.
Great.